everybody. All together right now. Let's take a nice, deep breath. Okay? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. There was a movie with Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler years ago. I forget what it's called. What was it called? Can't remember. Funny movie. Anyway, Jack comes up because he's a psychologist or a psychiatrist in this movie. So Jack says to his group of anger management, it was called, says to his group of angry people, Goose Fraba. I feel better already. Goose Fraba. For the last 3 days, we've all been on edge with what's been going on at Universal Ostrich Farm, and I don't blame anybody for being tense. However, some of us have been living vicariously through the eyes and lenses of the people at Universal Ostrich Farm, and there has been panic. I know this because I get several messages every day, in the last few days anyhow, from people saying, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. And they sound like they're just about to snap. Do something crazy maybe. I don't know. So of course, I try to talk them off the ledge if I can and make them understand that sometimes what we see on our screen is not necessarily the reality of the situation. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's part way the reality of the situation. So what we've been seeing from Universal Ostrich Farm the last 3 days definitely has been very harrowing for many of us. CFIA, government agency with ridiculous power, comes in, takes over your land, takes over your flock of ostriches, accompanied by the RCMP, dozens of them. Yeah, that's definitely a cause for concern. They were going to kill the ostriches until a last-second stay came in from the court. And we don't know exactly how long it's going to take the Supreme Court of Canada to decide whether or not they're even going to hear this case. But the ostriches are safe for now. People are looking, in my opinion, right now for problems. Some people who are watching, some people who are live streaming from the farm. And it's been noted by the leadership at the Universal Ostrich Farm that we need to be more responsible with the messages we're sending out. Some of them have been completely and totally over the top. And so, Sergeant Sean Whitman, who arrived at Universal Ostrich Farm, he's a retired Canadian Forces member. He arrived at Universal Ostrich Farm, I believe it was yesterday, from his home in Saskatoon, and he had a message for everybody at the farm today. Please watch this, and let's remember it for ourselves, because it's very good advice.
I sent out a video, or 2 videos, day before yesterday, and they've hit 2.3 million impressions. So for that, I have been flooded by my veteran friends, people who know me, people who've served with me, and said, Sean, we need you to get down there and be a leader. What I see online, there's so much good stuff. You guys are doing amazing work online. There's also stuff online that you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, we addressed that.
Okay. In the military, can see a show of hand who here has served in the military. Okay. You guys have all had some crowd control training. We've got extensive training when we went overseas. I know what they're thinking. Okay? Yeah. Just some key points. Communication stops when a camera is shoved in your face.
Yep. Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
If you're going into a mall and somebody shoves a camera in your face and starts badgering you, are you going to answer them? No. Your guard's going to go up though, isn't it? Right? So keep that in mind. Okay. Another quick one is social media. It was mentioned today. When you reply to somebody who is instigating you, chances are they're doing it for a reason. You don't know this person. Are they a hired instigator? limit your reply to 2. You're not going to change their mind. So why bother getting into an online argument with them?
Yeah.
I'm an avid gun owner. I do the same thing with the anti-gun activists. 2 replies, move on. Because you ever hear the adage, person can't argue with themselves? Leave them be. Move on. Right? Exactly. Something my brother showed me today, or talked to my brother today. He's a trucker in Ontario. Now, there's been a lot of conspiracy talk and a lot of online badgering and talk about trucks coming onto the site with the names blacked out. There's a reason for that. And I learned something. If that truck is not working for the official capacity of that company, they need to have their logo covered for liability and insurance purposes. If they're a third-party leasee, they're not acting like, hypothetically, Jim John Septic. Okay? They lease the truck comes in. The truck isn't being operated by the septic company, it's being operated by a third party. Therefore, the logo needs to be covered. Okay. Because if they back into a car, are they going to go after the driver or are they going to go after the company?
Company, yeah.
Right? So there's reasons for that. It's just little things like that. I was always taught information is king.
Yeah, exactly.
My goal over the next couple days is to get information. I've already sat with some RCMP. I'm working on a meeting with the sergeant as well as the liaison officer. They've already said as soon as the sergeant comes in, he's going to come get me. My ears are always open. Okay? If you guys have questions about social media or, hey, you know what? How do I handle it if this person does this? I have no problems answering it. But the most important thing you guys everybody here, we need to police ourselves. The police, I know 100%, not all of them want to be here.
Yeah,
some of them do.
All that. We covered all
right?
That. They know.
We would rather be at home with our loved ones as well. But we're here because we want to be. We could have people come in to stir the pot. It's up to us to police that. Okay, so if you see something, say something.
Some very good advice. We need to be absolutely 100% responsible with the information we share. Now, having said that, there's something I call message fragments, right? Meaning that this is a clip of something that looks like something with no context around it. And so what happens then? People will extrapolate on their own and they'll start commenting with their opinions, and people get opinions mixed up with actual fact lots of times. So I've said this to you guys before, and I've been guilty of it myself a little bit in the past. We really need to police ourselves when it comes to the content that we share. The content that we put out there needs to be rock solid, or we just make ourselves look like asses when we're disproven later. So let's keep our heads on a swivel. I know I'm looking at the comments right now. I see a lot of you guys don't trust the CFIA, and I totally understand that. They need to be watched. There was an episode last night at the farm where spotlights were going off, drones were flying. Katie and a bunch of people went running down from the house to the pens, and they spoke to an RCMP officer, and it turns out that it was a porta potty delivery at 3:00 in the morning. Why that was, nobody knows. I don't feel as though the RCMP officer who was speaking with Katie was being completely honest with her. Or maybe he was on a need-to-know basis from his superiors and he didn't know. Either way, the information we have at this time, that the disturbance last night at the Ostrich Farm at 3:00 in the morning was, in fact, a porta potty delivery and nothing more. There was also a clip today shared by thousands of people of an ostrich running around the pen with a rope around its neck. One of the CFI agents was trying to catch the ostrich to take the rope off. We don't know why the rope was around this ostrich's neck in the first place. People were yelling at the CFIA agent to let Karen come in. She'd have the rope off in 2 minutes. But we don't know the information around that clip. So is it responsible to share? I would say sure. Go ahead and share that clip. But if you have a comment to make, please make sure that it's within the context of the clip. I'll bet the CFIA were trying to wrangle ostriches and this is what happened. We don't know. We don't know that. When we extrapolate, we have to let people know we're extrapolating. This is my opinion, right? So that way we can't be lumped into the misinformation category. Everything we say, it's got to be golden. It's got to be golden. Now, I've got a line into the Ostrich Farm. I'm talking to them every single day, you guys. We had Jeff on, Katie on, Karen on, Jim and Thundra were on last night. Rebel News was on with us as well. So we're covered here on the show. Try to summarize the happenings at the Ostrich Farm daily, considering they've been so vital in the last few days. So I've just had some messaging with Jeff Gaudry, and I asked him, who was the guy in black in the pens last night? There was some video of a guy in black in the pens. We don't know exactly what he was doing. Jeff says, not exactly sure. Things are pretty mellow right now. I asked him if he got any sleep. He said, yeah, I got about 5 hours last night, which is more than the last 3 nights combined. And that's all he had to say regarding what's going on at the Ostrich Farm today. We have a lot of other stuff going on for you guys. Chris Barber back in court today. And it's been announced by the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, that they're going to be introducing mandatory digital ID. James Comey has been indicted by the US DOJ. Lots to cover tonight. How much has the Canadian government spent on litigating cases against convoy protesters so far? We've got that for you as well. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Silver is amazing. It has several natural health benefits, and it's been used for hundreds of years for health and healing. That's the main reason they made silverware from silver. But seriously, this nano silver from Silverceuticals is the best and safest silver you can find. There are hundreds of studies and reports on it. I've read some of the studies myself, and it's mind-blowing. One of the things that sets Silverceuticals apart is that it washes out of your body in 24 hours. No silver buildup, and no turning blue. And it won't even harm the good bacteria your body needs. It's so effective, they can use very small concentrations of silver, like 10 and 32 parts per million, and still outperform other silvers that have up to 3,000 parts per million. It's safer and more effective at the same time. It is an incredibly small particle that is small enough to work through your body, but big enough not to fall out of suspension. They infuse it into almost all of their products. It works in facial serums, toothpaste, gels, and even gummies that work to help your immune system.
Canada Nano Silver, 204-808-9292, CanadaNanoSilver.com. All right, Chris Barber, not the only trucker on trial today. Chava Vizzi is another convoy protester, and Right Blend has got an update on that case.
News, Chava Vizzi, a Freedom Convoy trucker. His case, I believe, was dismissed just moments ago in an Ottawa courthouse. Hearing from a reliable source inside the courtroom at the time of the decision, that he was found to have had his charter rights violated. Specifically, he was unlawfully arrested, and that the search incident to arrest was also unlawful, and anything stemming from that presumably is unlawful, like discovery of his name, etc., and therefore that any kind of searches conducted with his name, with social media videos, etc., would have to be disqualified or excluded as a result of his very serious charter breaches that were done to him. Because the Crown did not or refused to call the police, the arresting officer, so it could not be established when he was arrested, if he got his caution, if he got his rights to counsel properly, and what were the reasonable grounds for the arrest. You can't just take a blanket statement. You have to have the arresting officer testify to that, and they couldn't have any of that. So they didn't know where he was arrested. They couldn't establish how he got to the red zone, if he, what happened at what time, how long was he out there for. They couldn't establish any of that. All they had was the testimony of a processing detective that was handed him from a HOT team, a processing team, so a chain of officers. So they couldn't establish any of the grounds of the arrest by the arresting officer, the times, the details, basic stuff, which means that his rights were seriously violated. So the definitely 8 and 9 section charter breaches But then the Section 10 breach, I believe there were lesser findings on those, as he was explained. I think the note said that he was explained some of his rights at least by one detective, so that some of the Section 10 concerns were alleviated, but it was still such a serious breach with the unlawful arrest that everything else together meant the exclusion of the evidence. And at that time, I believe there was a substitute Crown today too. The Crown who was handling this was a charter application by Defense Counsel Diane Magus, and the Crown who was handling this case previously was substituted today at the last minute, I guess, and they didn't have instruction on how to proceed should the judge have ruled against them in such a significant way. And I believe that what had happened is the Crown just decided there and then that they were going to withdraw their case now that they didn't have any of the social media evidence or anything like that. Very good news. I am personally extremely happy that I'm not going to have to cover Mr. Chavavizzi's court case. And as much of a great guy as he is, I'm just glad that he doesn't have to be coming back to Ottawa anytime soon for this, and he can continue on and live his life. So a very good outcome for him. He joined several other Freedom Convoy truckers who did have their charges dismissed. Mr. Buchert comes to mind, who was also, I believe, represented by Ms. Magus. A good defense counsel goes a really long way. Can you imagine how much better so many of these different cases would have ended up if the funds that were donated to the Freedom Convoy, the $20 million, were allowed to be used by defense funds and other things to get everyone the best possible chance in court? Like, it's so cruel. It's so cruel that not only are they being charged with huge amounts of charges, but then all the money that people gave them for this cause was taken away, and they weren't able to, in many cases, provide themselves a fair defense, which is really sad. And I'm really sad for anyone who didn't have the defense capable of making these types of robust and fair arguments, that everyone should be entitled to have such a robust defense.
Well, that's the point, right? They know that we can't muster the funds to come up with a defense, and they know they're going to win using our own money, ironically, against us. So the forfeiture trial, I guess it's a trial, maybe it's a hearing, of Chris Barber's truck Big Red continued today. Chris attended with his family via Zoom. And here is a message from the JCCF. Legal response filed to protect Chris Barber's truck Big Red from government forfeiture. The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms announces that lawyers for Saskatchewan trucker and businessman Chris Barber have filed a formal legal response opposing the Crown's attempt to seize Big Red, the 2004 Kenworth long-haul truck he owns and relies on for his family's trucking business. The prosecution is seeking forfeiture of the truck, valued at more than $150,000, following Mr. Barber's conviction for mischief and obstruction charges linked to the peaceful 2022 Freedom Convoy protest. The Crown has applied to seize the truck as offense-related property, alleging it was used in connection to committing an offense. They also said they wanted it because it's a symbol of the convoy. Government actually said those words. But Mr. Barber's legal team argues the Ottawa police themselves directed him where to park his truck on Wellington Street and later approved slow rolls of the vehicle as a form of protest. In fact, the truck was moved out of the downtown core at the request of police on February 8th, 2022, and never returned. Big Red is essential equipment for Mr. Barber's trucking company, supporting not just Mr. Barber, but also his family and his employees. As the filing explains, a forfeiture order would cause serious economic harm, jeopardizing the viability of the business itself, and amounts to disproportionate punishment. Constitutional lawyer Diane Magus said this truck was never a tool of crime. It's a working truck directed by police where to park and moved when they asked. Seizing the very vehicle that Chris and his family rely on to earn a living would devastate a legitimate Canadian business. Before we continue, Chris posted a video today. And I have to admit, I'm getting emotional now just thinking about it. When I first watched it, I became emotional. Because I don't know if there's anything I've ever seen that's more Canadian than this. Watch this.
Things to do in the morning is sit here and have my coffee on the deck. This morning, Jonathan's joining me. We have trial today. Jonathan gets to be, and Zip gets to do his thing. Just get to sit here, and a moose just walks right by the front yard here, and Zip's gonna go get him. You gonna go get him, Zip? My great-grandfather homesteaded on this property in 1905. So it's kind of cool. Every morning you sit here and you watch that sun come up over the east. And you know that he would have watched that sunrise. And you know my grandfather raised his family in this yard. He watched that. As a child, I used to sit in the kitchen window here, eat my cereal, and that sun would blind you as you were sitting there trying to eat it. We've been here since 1905. And we're still fighting, right?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about your forfeiture hearing today?
That'll go good.
It'll go good. You know what you have on your side?
The truth.
Exactly. We're still standing. And we'll continue to stand. We appreciate all the support. Keep fighting.
So here's how much they've spent, the Canadian government, from Rebel News. Liberals torch $21 million fighting convoy lawsuits, and that's just the civil side. Canadians... Excuse me a moment. You know, I go through this stuff all day long, and I try and harden myself to the information and to the vibe that I get. And that, for that very reason, to not do this on the show. And yet, it happens. Canadians know the civil tab alone is past 21 million, but the government won't come clean on how high the true total really runs. Documents tabled in Parliament show the Department of Justice has racked up $21,031,000 on civil litigation and the Emergencies Act Commission. That tally includes both real disbursements and notional costs for government lawyers billing their time against convoy files. And the bill doesn't stop there. The Public Prosecution Service of Canada admitted it has its own convoy-related costs for federal prosecutors, but refused to say how much, claiming its system doesn't properly track the spending. Canadians know the civil tab alone is past $21 million. But the government won't come clean on how high the true total really runs. Rebel News reported earlier this week how the Liberals have also spent an additional $3.6 million in fighting challenges to Justin Trudeau's invocation of the Emergencies Act. The act was used February 2022 against the peaceful civil liberties demonstration that was deemed unconstitutional and unnecessary. So exactly how bad are our finances in this country? We thought this year's deficit was going to be about $63 billion. That number came out last week or maybe the week before. Well, now it's going to go higher. Here's Franco Terrazzano from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation.
News, folks. The Parliamentary Budget Officer just released its budget outlook, and things are bad. Things are very bad, okay? The alarm bells should be ringing. It is time for the government in Ottawa to end the debt-fueled spending spree. Okay, so the PBO is projecting this year's deficit to increase sharply to $68.5 billion. Okay, almost a $70 billion deficit this year. Interest charges on the debt will cost taxpayers $55 billion this year, more money than what the federal government is spending or sending to the provinces in healthcare transfers. So let that sink in for a second. Debt interest charges costing you more than $1 billion every single week. And interest charges on the debt will reach $80 billion in 2030. Debt interest charges, folks. Now, Carney will be borrowing billions and billions of dollars every single year, according to the PBO. So Carney's annual borrowing will add about $255 billion to the debt over 4 years. An extra $255 billion to the debt. Now, let's just look at a little comparison here, right? We all know that the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was borrowing money like crazy. But even Trudeau, over those same 4 years, was planning to add $131 billion to the debt. Okay, so Carney is planning to add more than $100 billion more than what even Trudeau was planning over those 4 years. This is not credibility. This is fiscal insanity. Now, Carney is also going to spend billions of dollars more every single year, according to these PBO projections. Now, here's the thing, right? Carney sold Canadians on the idea that he was different than Justin Trudeau. But when it comes to the debt, here's the truth. Carney is planning to borrow billions of dollars more than even what Trudeau was planning to do. Now look, after a decade of out-of-control spending, reckless budget policies from the government in Ottawa, Carney spending. Carney must make government more affordable for you. This is completely unacceptable.
I often wonder if Franco and his gang get a chance to address any of these MPs and talk about all this stuff. Or is it just that he comes to us with reports every now and again so we can sit here and go, "Rrrr." I mean, I like the guy, don't get me wrong, and I do like the fact that he's keeping us updated on how bad and abysmal the Liberal government is. But what can be done about it? Today, and I talked about this last night a little bit, today on X, many conservative, and when I say conservative supporters, I'm talking about Conservative Party supporters. Many of them were calling for Pierre Poilievre to resign today. And I'm not sure if it's just over the ostrich situation or if there's more to it. Ukraine, maybe. Climate change, maybe. The Conservatives have done an abysmal job at standing up to that agenda, haven't they? They've even admitted, they've even said to themselves, well, okay, climate change exists, but we can do energy cleaner. When Donald Trump addressed the world the other day via the UN and said, it's a hoax, it's a scam, it's ridiculous. And I believe that 99% of the world believes that. But 98% of that 99% probably too scared to talk about it. Got to keep my job. Oh, here's one more thing about the Freedom Convoy as compared to the Palestinian protesters, because, you know, we've got the two-tier policing here, too, just like they have in the UK. Ottawa, the city of, has canceled noise fines for pro-Palestinian protesters. Tickets were issued in 2023 and 2024 for using megaphones and loudspeakers, but now they're not. So the city said at the time the fines were issued after warnings were given, but has since decided the cost of collection outweighed any public benefit. The city prosecutor withdrew 17 tickets today, or this was a couple of days ago now, under the noise bylaw, each having a set fine of $400. Interim city solicitor Stuart Huxley said in an emailed statement Tuesday. Based on a review of the specific circumstances, the prosecution discontinued proceedings for reasons of public interest and to preserve limited court resources. Limited court resources. But they still want Chris Barber's truck. Oh, and by the way, sentencing for Chris and Tamara is still scheduled for October 7th. However, there could be a change to that. They could push it back a little bit further. The Liberals are still planning on taking your guns, too, by the way. A pilot project begins in Nova Scotia next month. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do this, but it's Cape Breton's chief of police who was on the podium yesterday, and here's what he had to say.
Today, on behalf of the Cape Breton Regional Police Service, to collaborate with the Government of Canada on this pilot for the assault-style firearm compensation program. Police see firsthand the devastating impacts of gun violence, and we know the importance of removing these dangerous firearms from our communities. So we are pleased as a police service to be able to assist by providing a safe and secure process for firearms owners to voluntarily return firearms that the government has now prohibited for public safety. At the Cape Breton Regional Police Service, we have the capacity and the expertise to safely collect, verify, and secure the prohibited firearms identified in our area. So,
Okay, this is going to become quite incendiary. It's a veiled threat almost.
that the government can test the elements of this program. We are a large enough organization to facilitate with no impact to our frontline service delivery. Liaising with gun owners and the government, we will provide feedback to ensure the program operates smoothly before opening Canada-wide. Testing their collection process with our police service gives the government an opportunity to work with a municipal partner as they prepare to collaborate with a number of non-federal partners across the country. This program is really a way to help lawful gun owners stay in compliance with the law.
Are they going to send task forces to different homes in Cape Breton? Like 6, 8 officers, a dozen officers to confiscate guns? Are they really going to do that? By the way, this police chief here, Robert J. Walsh, again, police chief of Cape Breton, this guy behind him in the red tie, the glasses and the red tie, you see him there? That's Liberal MP Mike Kellaway, his brother-in-law. Let's continue.
We see this as giving them an opportunity to surrender what they are no longer allowed to possess, to prevent criminal liability, and to demonstrate that this can be an effective process for removing dangerous firearms from our community without having to use extra police resources to go and seize them. Ultimately, this is about public safety and security of our communities and putting the protections in place to prevent further victimization and tragedy from gun violence.
Okay, that police chief, what he just said there, he knows that he is absolutely full of shit. He knows that he is. But he's going along with it anyway. I'm kind of wondering if there was, and now this is my own, right? So what I was talking about at the beginning of the show here, fact versus opinion. This is me just kind of thinking out loud here. I'm wondering, because that Liberal MP is his brother-in-law, is there anything going on there in terms of a little bit of cash behind the back? Or, hey, you know what? Can you do me a solid, buddy? Something like that. Because police chiefs all across the country for years now have been saying that these gun laws are absolutely ridiculous. They don't do anything to stop gun crime because gun crime is in the hands of illegal gun owners. You know, the bad guys, the gangs out there, the organized crime. It's not about Uncle Bob and his hunting rifle. The president of the Toronto Police Association was on left-wing corporate radio in Toronto this morning. Listen.
Of the data tells us something different. You jumped on a social media post from former cop and fellow media person Steve Ryan, who noted 150 cases he'd investigated in policing. 149 were an illegal gun. One was a legal firearm, and that's just the argument, I think, right there out the window for the federal government wanting to knock on doors, do searches, collect grandpa's hunting rifle when it just is such a waste of resources and assets.
I can't think of one right now, and Hank ran the homicide squad where we had a legal firearm involved in a criminal offense here in the city. This is not about hunters. This is not about target shooters or gun collectors. This is about a small number of individuals in this city with illegal guns, thugs, criminal gangs, that are out there, often prohibited from having a firearm or out on bail for a previous firearm offense, causing the havoc we're seeing in this city. I don't know how this would be implemented. I don't know who would do it. I'm not aware of any plan upcoming in the city of Toronto. It's something maybe better to ask the service about, but I'm not aware of any plan in place to actually confiscate these guns. It would be an absolute waste of resources.
You know why they want the guns. You know, right? Now, for anybody new to the show, for anybody new to the rabbit hole, feel free to ask in the comments, and you will get several answers from the people who have been around for quite some time, and they will absolutely answer you on this one. Do it politely, you guys. So, the government trying to get your guns, and they're spending money on ridiculous things, and they're over budget by $69 billion this year. In the United States, they're getting rid of Antifa. Here, we fund it. Here's Bernie Faber of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network with the 2025 fall message.
We counter, we monitor and expose far-right hate-promoting movements, groups, and individuals in Canada using every reasonable, legal, and ethical tool at our disposal. Thanks so much, really, for joining us today as we launch our Confronting and Preventing Hate in Canadian Schools toolkit, which represents the next stage of our work to fight and win against hate. Now, the point of this free toolkit is to help parents, educators, and the community identify and intervene when a young person is being groomed and recruited by a white supremacist movement before it's too late. And it's not just a free toolkit. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network is launching a whole education program. We'll work with schools to carry out anti-hate workshops, and we're available at any time to help schools figure out difficult and potentially dangerous situations. We need to do everything we can to make schools safe from violent hatred. That's why we have this new free toolkit available at antihate.school. Let me repeat that, antihate.school. It will have new content for educators, parents, and community members all of the time, always being refreshed. We are already doing these workshops. They have real-world examples and strategies for interventions. The feedback has been excellent, and we have to get this toolkit into schools right across our country. We want to especially thank Unifor, Franklin, Brian, and Lee for their generous contributions towards getting our education program off the ground.
So again, Unifor, that big, huge union, the federal government, and a bunch of other smaller donators keep this network, keep this group going, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. That's Bernie Faber, claiming that white racist nationalists are a major problem in schools, and we're out trying to groom kids to hate. Didn't address the trans, didn't address the massive immigration, didn't address the lack of any kind of patriotism in schools these days, or the Lord's Prayer, which I don't think they do anymore. If you want to know how all of this has happened, right there, that's your answer. And it's been happening for 20, 25 years in this country. Here's a story out of Ottawa, out of Ontario, actually. Ottawa is going to be forced to turn off 60 photo radar cameras as Ontario moves to ban speed cameras. Well, it's about time. Those things were never, ever dependable. And I certainly hope every other province moves to do the same thing. So good move, Doug Ford. Good move. This guy, he's, I don't know, wildly unpredictable, isn't he? Up and down like a hooker's pants. I can't believe this guy. Some days he's a conservative, and some days he's a liberal. Some days he's licking Mark Carney's ass, and other days he's ripping the federal government, like in this little speech.
Overreach. It's way overreach. Again,
he's talking about how the federal government wants to limit the use of the notwithstanding clause.
Another area of overreach by the courts and the federal government. Why doesn't the minister actually go forward and start focus on bail reform? Why doesn't he start focus on mandatory sentencing? Why doesn't he focus on Young Offenders Act? There's not one person I've talked to that has said, we want to give the judges, more politically appointed judges, more authority. I haven't heard one person, but he's so bent on going up there. He messed up the immigration. He's messed up housing. Now they put him in as Attorney General. He needs to focus on what counts for the people. Come up to York and ask anyone in York, should we give our federal judges more power Or should we focus on crime? Should we focus on bail reform? Should we focus on Young Offenders Act, that these young kids, 14 years old, right here in York, are running around with guns? I guarantee you won't have one person say, let's give judges more power and reduce the democracy that people elect people to make decisions. And by the way, let me tell you something. It's not just this premier. It's premiers across the country are on fire. This is the worst decision Prime Minister Carney has ever done, and it will be an absolute disaster. And I don't believe it's going to go through. It just takes Quebec and Ontario to block it. So why is he wasting his time? He should get back to work and focus on what areas really, really matter.
Yeah, he probably should. I don't know what to make of this guy. He's like a fart in the wind. One more thing with the federal government here, and this is to do with Canada Post. Most door-to-door mail delivery will end amid sweeping changes to Canada Post. Already, Cup W is preparing a strike. I think they've already gone on strike, to be honest with you. Door-to-door mail delivery ending for virtually all Canadian households within the next decade. Public Works and Procurement Minister Joel Lightbound, he's a minister? I didn't know. He said that today as he ordered sweeping changes in an effort to make the Crown Corporation financially viable. Well, if there's not going to be any door-to-door mail delivery, then why even bother having it in the first place? When all your competition does do door-to-door delivery. UPS and Purolator. And FedEx. Come right to your door. Hey, how's it going? FedEx! Cool. Those changes also will include slowing down the frequency of mail delivery and shuttering some post offices. Lightbound said the changes are meant to shore up Canada Post's finances, adding that the corporation needs to show a path to financial viability. This is the most ridiculous government. And we voted them in, or did we? The minister said the federal government will accept all of the recommendations in the Industrial Inquiry Commission's report on Canada Post, which also called for the introduction of more community mailboxes. Canada Post is a national institution older than our country itself that's been serving Canadians for more than 150 years. For generations, postal workers have connected communities in every corner of the country, providing an essential lifeline to blah, 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 blah. At the same time, Canada Post is now facing an existential crisis. Repeated bailouts from the federal government are not the solution. 4 million Canadians will also see their service switch from door-to-door delivery to a community mailbox model, and some post offices will be closed for good. Where's the part about the strike? Let's see here. This is kind of a long story. In a media statement released Wednesday, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers said they were not informed the announcement was coming and did not know the details. Pressure is mounting on Canada Post and the union, representing 55,000 postal workers, to reach a new agreement before the critical holiday season. I thought they went back to work. These guys are always striking, then they're not striking, they go back on strike. Maybe that's why I haven't gotten mail in a while. I don't know. I never check it. After nearly 2 years of negotiations, the sides are showing few signs of progress. The parties, that's how much we need Canada Post, right? I haven't checked it. The parties have been far apart on wages and on restructuring the collective agreement to allow for a core of part-time workers and weekend delivery. So, yeah. This country is upside down. It's upside down. Would you want to, if you had the option to get out, would you get out without ever having to move? What kind of a riddle is that, man? Well, Alberta. Look at Alberta. I mean, soon they'll have a sovereignty vote. They will be voting to be their own independent country. And the people of Alberta will never, ever have to move. They technically won't be Canadian anymore, but they'll still be friends with the rest of us, they say, just like Quebec says. But there are forces opposed to that as well. There's something called the Unity Bus that's going to be traveling across rural Alberta for signatures to keep the province in Canada. That's where most of the votes for sovereignty will come from, in rural Alberta. I believe Calgary and Edmonton will vote mostly to stay in. It's a red and white bus, obviously. Can you imagine if it was some other color? Like yellow and black, called the Canada Unity Bus? Like, dude. Adorned with maple leaves as well, it will be hitting the highways of rural Alberta in an effort to collect enough signatures for a petition to keep the province in Canada. The Forever Canadian Initiative is looking to get nearly 300,000 signatures from Albertans before October 28th. Through the petition group, founder and former PC Deputy Premier Thomas Lukaszuk is trying to get the government of Alberta to declare remaining in Canada is its official policy. Daniel Smith hasn't said that officially yet. We have to get to the magical number of 300,000 signatures, and in order to reach that number, we have to hit rural Alberta. Ooh, well, maybe not many urban people are signing it after all. That's good news, isn't it? All right. I believe, and I think I've said this to you guys on the show before, that the only hope Canada has, really, at this stage of the game, is if Alberta separates and Quebec. Canada actually just ceases to be a thing. And then maybe something can happen in the future where we can actually reform ourselves and not build a house on sand. And that's what Canada is. Canada is a house built on sand, a country that operates mostly on convention and not the rule of law, regardless of what government officials say. How many times have we heard the Governor General can save us, right? When the Prime Minister does something stupid. And you read the law, you read the Constitution, and you see that the Governor General does, in fact, have the power, according to the law, to be able to remove the Prime Minister if he gets out of hand. But she doesn't, because that's convention. Since the King Byng affair of 1927 or 1928 or 1926. There has been no altercation like that in this country because it's convention. That's the way we've always done it. So we're going to keep doing it like that. So technically speaking, we don't operate by any set of rules. And yet more rules or conventions get added on top of the existing conventions until eventually it falls apart because the law actually contradicts convention in many cases. So if this country does fall apart, and it probably should, and I really don't like to say that, because it hurts here, right? Then maybe one day we can all get together and build something with a solid foundation, with a solid constitution that represents the people and not the government, not corporations, not unions, but the people, with individual rights for all. Period. Bottom line. End of story. That, and a country that can't have any of those laws bastardized by any Marxists in the future. That would be a country I would be proud to live in. And if we call it Canada, awesome. I can't think of another name anyway. What else have we got here for you guys? Oh, yeah, let's move on to some American news here. We've got some, you see the difference between what's going on in Canada and what's happening in the United States? It's remarkable. The DOJ is preparing probes into Soros's Open Society Foundations following bombshell expose by Ryan Morrow and Glenn Beck. And Donald Trump, let's see, I've got that video somewhere. Donald Trump was interviewed today about Soros. Yeah, here's what he said.
Soros, what names are we talking about?
Well, Soros is a name certainly that I keep hearing. I don't know, but Soros is a name that I hear. I hear a lot of different names. I hear names of some pretty rich people that are radical left people. Maybe I hear about a guy named Reid Hoffman. Somebody's a pretty rich guy, I guess, and I hear about him. I don't know, maybe could be him, could be a lot of people. We hear the same names, but they're bad, and we're going to find out. And if they are funding these things, they're going to have some problems because they're agitators and they're anarchists. These are anarchists. Really bad. Okay, yeah, please.
So not only does he declare Antifa a terrorist group, but now he's going after who funds them. Whoa. This is going to be big. And keep in mind, because I told you earlier tonight, so you should remember this, that Canada's still funding Antifa through many different NGOs, including the Anti-Hate Network, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which is ridiculous because that's exactly what they are. Remember, on page 1 of the Marxist Handbook, it's call them what we are. There's another thing, came from the DOJ today. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, Director of the FBI, Kash Patel, and their statements regarding the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. What? They indicted James Comey today. A federal grand jury has charged former FBI Director James Comey with serious crimes related to the disclosure of sensitive information. Oh, this is heavy. Whoa. The indictment alleges that Comey obstructed a congressional investigation into the disclosure of sensitive information in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1505. The indictment also alleges that Comey made a false statement in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001. Comey stated he did not authorize someone at the FBI to be an anonymous source. According to the indictment, that statement was false. No one is above the law, said Pam Bondi. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case. And then Kash Patel, who's been in hot water with the MAGA crew because of the whole Epstein thing. Today, your FBI took another step in its promise of full accountability. For far too long, previous corrupt leadership and their enablers weaponized federal law enforcement, damaging once proud institutions and severely eroding public trust. Every day, we continue the fight to earn that trust back. And under my leadership, this FBI will confront the problem head on. Nowhere was this politicization of law enforcement more blatant than during the Russiagate hoax, a disgraceful chapter in history we continue to investigate and expose. Everyone, especially those in positions of power, will be held to account no matter their perch. No one is above the law. Trump's doing a great thing down there. But then there's a couple of things that make you go, dude, stop it. Now, unlike Danielle Smith and Doug Ford, who take one step forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, Trump is more like a 5 steps forward, 1 step back guy. And this is a step back. Trump has signed the order saying TikTok sale meets U.S. requirements. J.D. Vance, the VP, says the new version of TikTok will be valued at around $14 billion, and it will be controlled entirely by the United States of America. You know who bought it? Larry Ellison of Oracle. You guys know Larry Ellison? Trump just made a $500 billion deal with Larry Ellison a couple of months ago, and everybody was going, oh my God, we're going to be in a surveillance state very, very soon. Listen to Larry Ellison talk about surveillance. Watch.
Will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras. It's AI that's looking at the camera. No. You can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be an event that's immediately an alarm's going to go off. It's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. And the supervision will, and if there's a problem, AI will report the problem and report it to the appropriate person, whether it's the sheriff or the chief or whomever we need to take control of the situation. We have, same thing. We have drones. We just, if there's something going on in a shopping center, and I'll stop. A drone goes out there, get there way faster than a police car. There's no reason for, by the way, high-speed chases. You shouldn't have high-speed chases between cars. You just have a drone follow the car. I mean, it's very, very simple. And the new generation of autonomous drones.
That's the new owner of TikTok, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm certain that he's working on digital ID as well. Maybe not in the States, at least not right now. Then again, maybe he is. But definitely in other parts of the world. For example, the UK. So let me bring this up. I asked Google AI today, what is Oracle for surveillance? This is Larry Ellison's company, Oracle. Oracle for surveillance can refer to AI-powered mass surveillance systems advocated for by Oracle's chairman, Larry Ellison, involving constant monitoring of police body cameras and other feeds. Alternatively, it can also refer to Oracle's data management and cloud infrastructure services, which are used for organizations for various purposes, including storing and managing video surveillance archives. Video surveillance. There was a cartoon that came out a couple of years ago, post Agenda 2030. I forget exactly what it was called. It was made by a Canadian guy, 12 minutes long maybe. Showed a guy living in this cramped little apartment, eating bugs, being monitored by drones if he stepped out on the balcony without his mask on, all of that stuff. And that cartoon came to mind today when I watched that video of Larry Ellison. That's not a new video either. That's been out for quite some time now. It's alarming. And this bit of news broke last Friday. Every UK adult from GB News will need digital ID under Keir Starmer's plan to tackle illegal migration. This is exactly what we talked about 3 or 4 years ago. Remember? Oh, all this migration, all this crisis going on. And somebody is going to step up and say, well, digital ID and digital currency is going to take care of that. Let's bring that in. Then we'll be able to know who everybody is and where they are at all times. And here we are. This is bone chilling. Where do you think Mark Carney is right now? After making that great deal with Indonesia the other day, the game changer, as he calls it. It's not. He's gone to Europe. He's talking to France. He's talking to Germany. He's talking to the UK. You think he's talking trade? No. He's talking about Agenda 2030. Where are you guys at? Because we're about to put in the digital ID now. Well, I'm only just destroying the economy right now and bringing in mass immigration. Oh, well, you're behind the curve, bud. They're comparing notes as to where they are in the agenda implementation. That's what they're doing. Prime Minister is preparing to announce the scheme in a speech. Every UK adult will need a newly issued digital identity card as part of plans to curb channel crossings. Fight immigration with digital ID. Sir Keir Starmer is expected to confirm. Sources have told GB News the Prime Minister is set to announce the scheme in a keynote speech. When was this released? Hang on just a second. I think this is today. Yeah. So he's going to announce this tomorrow. And they're going to be calling it the Brit Card. It's expected to be able to verify an individual's right to live and work in the UK. However, the ID card will need to undergo a consultation and would require legislation to implement, which they can jam through because they've got the same system over there that we have here. Sir Keir's government began looking at proposals for some form of digital ID for adults in Britain as illegal migrants continued to cross the channel in droves. Home Secretary, ironically, Shabana Mahmood, has voiced her support for digital ID cards. Chilling to the bone. We're going to go more into this on the extension tonight for all access on shadowdavis.com. If you're not a member over there, become one. It's cheap. It's like 12 or 13 bucks a month, and it's cheaper if you get the yearly plan, the annual plan. So we'll see you back there in just a couple of minutes. Also, don't forget to become a member of the Shadow at Night community on Telegram. And again, we'll see you there in a couple of minutes. If you're not coming with us, and I've got, by the way, an episode of Black Mirror to play for you guys tonight that's 9 years old, but it's going to freak you out. That's all coming up in the extension. So if you're not coming with us over there, I'll catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another episode. I love you all, and I appreciate you all, and I will see you soon. Have a great sleep. Bye for now.